Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Under Construction. This is episode number 77, and I am your host, Ellis, otherwise known as Train Man. This week, of course, we have some questions to take care of. If you have any questions or comments or anything whatsoever, feel free to put it down in the comments, and I will respond to it on the show, just as I do with this. There was a comment, I believe, about somebody asking if I had gotten this thing to not crash on the way in, and I actually have fixed that. Also, KS1 Productions says the lumber mill was named Burrington. Was it Burrington? I remember being kind of... Was it Burnington? Or Burrington? Burington. Burrington Mill. Okay, I can believe that. I think that's right. I don't know if that's right, but I'll believe it. Anyway, we're in Doughcliff. You may notice that in my off time I've added these tram tracks here that run up and over the hill. I may add a single track that runs this way around the very edge, but the other thing I might actually do is make this a little bit steeper. Anyway, this tram track runs all the way to Mason Valley here at this end, where at this end you may also see some things that I got done or added. I have this bridge now, I have this bridge now. This is still here, of course. I have this bridge now, and I have some roads over here, some new roads. What else have I done? Yeah, this bridge is new. I did a lot of road work in the off time from last time. I also added the engines that are here, which is an 080, an SP Atlantic, and a rail bus because this stall is short. So, whatever. I added the track marks on the turntable. I've set this up so that we won't need signals on the turntable. I added a little house here, and I added this shed for diesels and for other repairs. And by diesels, I mean diesel, because we have one. There's also a train set for this back and forth now. And the other thing is I brought in the third rail all the way up to the station so that we can have narrow gauge trains onloading and offloading at the same station as the standard gauge. So, that's nice. But this is not what I want to work on today. I want to work on more scenery. Well, actually, if I'm going to be honest, I do want to work on that. But what we should work on is more scenery. You'll notice that there's a bit here that's no longer empty, and we're going to go look at it and maybe do some texturing on it right now. Anyway, Broken Bob 13 says, Geiger Mountains 2 dual gauge Boogaloo, and I totally get where you're coming from, and I agree, and I find that funny. Because, I mean, it's what we're doing. It's the second iteration of the Geiger Mountains, and we finally got some real standard gauge in the mix. Oh, you know what? Switch over to Route Layer. Something about the old Geiger Mountains is that initially when I was going about creating it, I had considered adding a standard gauge connection, although I settled on the off-map connection so that the railroad was all one gauge. It was all narrow gauge. And I think I was fine from back then. See, now, I originally said that we were going to have just standard gauge and here I am building narrow gauge. That's what you call feature creep. But I don't know, I'm really enjoying it, and it fills out a nice area on the map. It's something that I'm going to do not until we have all of the ends of it completed. Now, something that I realized in sort of thinking about this whole thing is that the flatter the section of rail that you have to build, the earlier you should be building it. Because, for example, I am building the Gilson Eastern Railroad before I build the Volga Mountains Railroad to cross over the top of the Volga Mountains. And the reason I'm doing that, and it's not just because I want to, because I don't know if I do, the reason I'm doing that is so that I know where I have to come down to, and with respect to that, I know how high I can get. So, I don't want to go up to, a couple thousand meters or whatever, and then have to work my way back down from that in a much shorter distance, where if I build the other end, I know how much distance I have to play with, and I say, okay, I only have room to go up to 500 and come back down comfortably. Otherwise, I have to build in all sorts of loops and whatever. Not saying that this railroad, not saying that the VMR specifically won't have loops, because it should have some, and not really necessarily loops, but more like, again, not really switchbacks, but that sort of thing. If you look on, there are examples of this on Siskiyou Pass, and I think Willamette Pass, Willamette Pass, and that's what, that's what I'm sort of thinking of with the pass that I'm working on. Or with this. It's actually, I don't think it's going to be as difficult as Siskiyou, or Willamette, or Tennessee Pass even, but I do expect it to be a difficult run, and that's why our auto, not stack train, but our, trailer and flat car train has 5 Alcos on the front of it. It's only 1,500 tons. I could probably add another 10 or 20 cars on there, and it wouldn't look outrageous, but it does have to make it over the entire system, and it's supposed to do so without stopping. It leaves the other location at something like 3 in the morning. Or no, that does it leave at 3 in the morning? It leaves, actually, yeah, it's like train 31 or something. See, that's the other thing. That's the other thing that's an issue. So, I recently went through, and I renumbered all of the engines on the route. And it sort of went in conjunction with me going through the spreadsheet and cross-referencing the engine numbers that I'd selected for the different railroads with what engine numbers are available. And I'm not even talking about running numbers, I just mean, say you have a railroad that, or you say you have a Pacific that only can accept a 3-digit number on the side of it. It's only designed for 3 digits on the number plate, or on the, on the side of the cab, or whatever. It just wouldn't work otherwise. So, now I want to have that set of engines be a 3-digit number, or, a 3-digit number set. So, I realized that there were some engines that didn't align with. One of them being the Pacific, actually. Or not the Pacific, the Atlantic that I mentioned earlier. It's actually sitting in Mason's Landing right now. And the issue with that one was actually the opposite of what I just said. It was a 4-digit number plate and 4 digits on the side of the cab, but on the document I had it listed as a 3-digit engine. In fact, they were a very low number series because they're very old engines. Not too many railroads kept Atlantics for all that long, especially after Pacifics came around. So, with that in mind, I had placed them very low in the numbering scheme, but I realized that doesn't really work. They're designed for 4 numbers, so I should give them a 4-digit number for the railroad. I eventually settled on the 1990 series. So that's 1991 through 1999, 1990 through 1999. And the reason I settled on that number, other than the fact that it's a 4-digit number so I could use it sensibly, is the fact that I forgot what I was saying. Sorry if I'm tired. The fact that it's a 4-digit number. Oh, the reason I chose that number is because you've reached the end of 4-digit numbers under 2,000. And so my logic was, say when they were getting a bunch of new engines, they had the Atlantics around and didn't want to get rid of them. So what they did was they took the numbering of the Atlantics, in order to free up some numbers lower in the sequence, they took the numbering, whatever it was, and they basically increased it as high as it would go within reason. So they pushed them to the end of the 2000s, or they pushed them to the end of the 1000s, almost to the 2000s, and then and they just sort of left them there. And then 2000 starts with your diesels. So after that, you don't need to worry about your steam engines anymore, and their whatever their thingy is. Whatever their numberings were. The other thing you'll notice is that on that railroad, I didn't put any diesel engines under 2000. And again, the reasoning for that is because that's the dividing line between your steam numbers and your diesel numbers. A lot of railroads did that, and if you look at even modern railroads, even just to pick out Amtrak as an example, because that's the railroad that I know road numbers for, pretty much everything is a 3-digit number, except for, well, if it's less than that, but also except for the Acellas. The Acellas are number series, like, starting with 2100 or something like that. It's just what they use for that to differentiate the Acellas from everything else. And, you know, that's done on purpose, that's done consciously. And it's really great. Honestly, I think numbering schemes in general are really particularly interesting. Interesting things to think about. Between numbering schemes, freight and passenger reference numbers, like, you know, like the, what is it called? The tag on a train. And the third thing being, something else. I don't remember. Like station designations, and just the way stuff is timetabled as well. Just the way that's all set up. You know, right now I have my first passenger train to passenger train interface as I'm programming the train that runs back and forth from Mason's Landing to Mason Valley. And that's a really fun thing to do, but it means that I have to keep cross-referencing schedules. And I don't have a written schedule for that train yet, which is something that I have to do. The passenger train there, I really don't want this to look too bad. You know what I think I'm going to do for in here? This might help if I... Yeah, you know what? It's a lot of work, though. Yeah, but there's no way out of here. Alright, let's do this. But yeah, I don't know. I find all that stuff interesting. All the logistical stuff is very cool. And the fact that every railroad handles it kind of differently is what's also really interesting to me. Hey, there we go. We got a nice little depression pond. And that actually makes this area look a whole lot better. Even though there's grass in it, which is a little strange, but ultimately just fine. And not that weird, really. Don't want to do that. Making this video always brings on the yawns for me, and I don't know why. I like making under construction a lot. I have had a little bit of a long day, and this weekend is not going to get any shorter. But at the very least, I have my car back. And so, the next chapter in the Volvo Chronicles begins, as I worry about, oh, when am I going to have to bring it back? And he asked me what I wanted to do with my other car. So I mentioned before that the other car is running, the other Volvo is running, and it can be taken home. In fact, he sort of waved the keys at me and was like, it's sitting right there if you want to take it for a joyride. And I said, well, not this time. I gotta go run errands and stuff. Oh, I forgot to go to the market. Oh, well. But I'm sort of remembering that, and he's quoting me on the rack and pinion, which is the one major thing that it needs before I can insure it, or before I'm willing to insure it and try driving it again. There are plenty of things that could be done, but, it's why, this is very bright. But I'm not worried about getting all the things that could be done. I just want to get it drivable. I have a huge laundry list of things that can or should or have to, perhaps, get done in order for that car to not just run again, but run properly and be, like, a half-decent car again. and I have gone back and forth on what's the most important stuff on that list, and I need to go look at it again before I get the car back, so that I can tell them to do more stuff if I have the money for it. But this is really the critical thing, and this is the one thing that he pointed out, that he picked out. He's like, you're leaking a lot of power steering fluid, and that's really what I was, that's the most concerning thing, at least for the drivability of the car. Safety is a different story. The car doesn't have airbags, and it won't, unless a lot of parts get replaced. So, I'm not sure about ever getting those airbags to work again. But they are on the list of things that should be done. There are like a few tiers of things that should be done. And I'm sure he will point things out as time goes on. If I take it to him for, regular tune-ups or inspections or whatever. But, whatever. He's got my money. That's the important part. He's got my money. And he's done good work, and he continues to do good work. And, find yourself a mechanic like that, The other thing I had to do to the wagon was get it aligned, because it needed an alignment, not only after all the work that had been done to it, but just in general. And so finally, it is highway drivable again. And my mechanic is the first person I've ever heard use PISA legitimately, not in a sarcastic way or like a jokey way. But he was telling me, you got to do this, replace these two sensors. If you replace these mounts, and you replace this bearing, and this sensor, it'll run PISA. It'll run, you won't have to worry about anything. And I was like, okay. He used that word. He used PISA in a just regular sentence, like it was an everyday word that people use. It's not something that I've really ever heard anyone say, even another Rhode Islander or even a Bostonian. It's weird to have it come out of somebody's mouth and have it be, something other than a swear word, first of all, because that's how I've heard people use it, just sort of as a curse. But just in general, to have somebody say it in normal conversation and mean it, and, But I guess PISA in this case just means wicked good. It'll run wicked good when it's done with all of the, with all this maintenance stuff. With all the work that's been put into it, with all the tune-ups and all the money, all the parts. And it really hasn't been that many parts. Whoa, that's loud. I'm not sure if you guys can hear that. Oh, okay, it's my phone. But, it's not even really completely the parts. There are definitely parts that are expensive, like the overdrive solenoid, which is what I needed to be changed so that I could get it into fourth gear. Did the game just crash? Okay, no. That was $250 just for the part, and then it was another 100 and something for labor, because you have to get under the car to replace it, which hurts my wallet, but I mean, overall it was worth it, because now I can have a car that can go on the highway. I got there, and I asked him how it was, and he goes, it'll go 90 miles an hour. And I just sort of stared at him for a second, because I was, again, taken aback by his himness. But I didn't ask how he knew that. I didn't really want to know. But he had mentioned that he had taken it out to drive it, to test drive it. So I assume he got on the highway and did 90 or something like that. I'm just glad he didn't, go and get a speeding ticket in my car or something silly like that. Because that would be a little bit annoying. And I hope he would take it out of my bill. But, okay. So, the other thing is I need to redo all the cliffs on here. As much as I like this weird back and forth with the rocky and the not rocky, it should all be rocky. So, rocky. That's Seasonal Forest again. CUK rock cover. That's what I need. Give me that. Alright, there we go. And this will start looking the way that it did. I don't think that this looks bad, but I would rather have it this way. Alright, so the Geiger Mountains Railroad, as it's going to stand, and I've been showing around a map to people that have been around, but not necessarily any of you guys. I have been working on that Tolbrand Plus map that I was talking about a little while ago, and it is getting along. There's a lot of work that's gone into it, and a lot of work that still needs to go into it, and yet a lot of unknowns. At this point, I'm drawing some of the highways on it and stuff like that, although I don't know what all the highways are, because I haven't sat down and looked even around on the map here to see where all the highways are. I did that with all the rivers, because I felt that was important, because they're a defining terrain feature. Well, you might even argue that they're the defining terrain feature, because they are the basis, if you're drawing them first, at least, they're the basis for the rest of the terrain. But the thingy-mahoo's-it, the thing with the map is that there are other things that attach to those roads, and I just need to figure out where they all are and where they go off the edge of the map. Be that the dirt road that runs into the Volga Mountains from where we are, from Adams, or if that's dirt, that might be paved, to the freeway that runs in north of the swamp. So, or sorry, what is that? That's, what direction is that? That is west of the swamp. Originally, it was supposed to go in there before the swamp, but, oh well. There is a road that goes in there before the swamp, and I'd like to figure out where that road goes as well. But the gaps between some of these areas are large enough that you don't know what roads start and end in there, but I would like to be able to mark it on the map. So if we care about only the stuff in, that we can see on this map here, on Tolbrand itself, the map that we've made in Tain, we don't need to worry about a lot of this stuff. But it does matter to me what goes on directly outside of this map, because it doesn't only let me make informed decisions about the terrain and the roads and stuff. It helps me figure out, okay, what are these trains carrying that are leaving the map? And the other thing is, so I fixed my math on my spreadsheet, and we're going to need a lot more lumber than I anticipated. We've got 40 cars, 40 empty cars, that's 80 units of lumber, going into Olive. So that's 40 cars that are currently full of trailers, and that are ready to be turned into cars full of lumber so they can be sent back to Wombeck to all the mills there and beyond. But the issue with that, also, I'm not sure if I'm going to send them all back on one train or back on multiple trains. I'm not certain. But they're all going to get sent back because the railroad needs to be completely balanced. If it isn't, at the end of the day, there's going to eventually be an overflow if you were to run the scenario for weeks. Not that I expect anyone to do that, but even if you cross 24 hours and things aren't back where they were at the very beginning of the session, then you're going to have a problem, at least back where they were within a margin of error. Okay, so Chris mentioned something, and I think I want to follow through on it, because originally I went, oh well, but I think I want to follow through on it, which is, he said about, I thought this would be like a clearing, and, now that I think about it, I think I maybe should make it a clearing. So, I wish I could delete a lot of assets at once, but this is going to be a lot of clicking otherwise. Or, well, it's going to be a lot of clicking. Full stop. I'll leave this as trees when we get here. But to this area, I might want to make another farm. Alright, I'm tempted. I don't know if I really want to do that. It's easier to just leave it as trees, and I'm trying to get through this area. But it is something that might be nice to do. So let's start clearing out these trees then. I don't know if there's a way to bulk delete. I think actually, it might be the way to do it. Do this. Select an area. Uh-oh. No, I'm not going to do that. Alright, so maybe I'll do that another time. because that would be a copy-paste. I don't know if that'll make the game upset, but I know that it might. So I don't really want to chance it. By the way, we have a lot of towns that start with very low alphabet letters. We have Adams, Appleton, and Bellington so far planned. And also, I went by Adams and I thought it said Adine for a minute, and I am now tempted to have a small town named Adine. Just because. And maybe some area called the Dragon's Pass, or like some dragon reference. I'm trying to make everybody happy. And the map is definitely big enough for all of us, in terms of we can get all the weird Easter eggs and references that we want on this map. It shouldn't be a problem. I can do it. The amount of brown textures that exist is great. There we go. I think that pond is really nice. I think this pond is also really nice. Not Karen Gillan. Anyone? Okay, so let's put this there. That's the edge of the end of the rock cut. And then here it just sort of transitions to dirt as well. Anyway, this weekend, actually, by the time you hear this, you will have missed it, unfortunately. But maybe I'll put an announcement out on my channel. And yeah, because that's the thing that you can do. And you know what? Maybe I'll post another, quote-unquote rail fanning video. Oh, I'll post it of Booth Bay. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll post it of the Booth Bay engine that's going to be running at the Big E. So I'm going to the Amherst Model Railway show, if you didn't figure out by me going ooh and ah about things. Which I'm going there to represent the Providence Northern. I'm going tomorrow, which is Saturday. I'm filming this on a Friday because this week has been busy, especially with getting the car. And I'm going to be there on Sunday as well, and so is the T-Judge. And I'm tempted to put out a thing. Now, you guys will know by now if I did this or not. I'm speaking to you from the distant past. And in fact, it's so long ago that I'm actually speaking to you with cave paintings. You're just a more evolved human by this point in time that you can actually understand them and translate them into words in your brain. Isn't the body and mind amazing? Anyway, I will be there, and I would not be unhappy if somebody showed up and was like, I know you from your channel. It would be weird, I think, but a good kind of weird. Like, yay, I've reached a certain level of notoriety. It's not like my level of notoriety has actually changed, but it makes me feel good on the inside. It makes me want to do more things. But that said, yeah, I'm going to be there, and if I run into anybody or anybody runs into me, that'd be great. I'm going to have my name tag on the whole time. I'm going to be hanging around. Other than the Providence Northern Model Railroad booth, I will be hanging around the, probably the COG people, the Mount Washington COG people, because they're always great folks. And they will probably have Pepper Sass there again. The Booth Bay engine that's going to be outside. I would love to see that. What else? Where else am I going to be? I mean, there's a table of Lego model trains. Honestly, it feels like I was just there. It feels like the last time I was there was like a couple of days ago or a couple of months ago or whatever. It feels more recent than the Amtrak, I'm going to be honest. The Amtrak is such a blur in my memory. It was awesome. It was a really great time. But what I was trying to do was, well, and this is going to sound silly, but I was trying not to take that many pictures. And the reason I was doing that, and the reason I was doing it purposefully, is because I want to be able to store the memories myself. There's something that goes on when you take a picture where you just don't remember it as well. Take a picture or take a video. You're more focused on doing that than you are on actually remembering what happened. So you get poorer memories of whatever it is you did. So I don't tend to take a lot of pictures when I'm on vacation. Also because I don't really look back at pictures that much. And I try not to be one of those people that's like, here, let's look through my entire photo album on my phone. Check this out. I have this picture. I have this this picture of my dog. I have this picture of, the cat being annoying. I have these pictures of Tolbrand on my phone. Look at all my things. You don't care about me. Look at all my things. It's like the modern day equivalent of somebody pulling out the pictures in their wallet of their kids and whatever, and just like, look at my kids. Look at my stupid, ugly kids. That. And, sometimes I don't mind seeing the pictures of other people's kids or dogs. Mostly dogs especially. Dogs and cats. That's what I want to see pictures of. I go on /r/all not to see babies. I go on there to see adorable puppies and kittens and other small animals that are non-human. Is there like an awe subreddit but just for babies or just for kids? Or like, yeah, maybe like children falling over. I know it's not the same sort of thing, but it's centered around kids. It's the only kid subreddit I can think of. Or wait, no, drunk or a kid is another one. That's another one. All the ones I can think of are just highlighting child stupidity, which is possibly one of the greatest things on earth. So, I don't know. That's whatever. The only reason that crosses my mind is it just occurred to me, like, why are there not more baby pics on Awe? Is it just animals? It's supposed to be just animals? I maybe remember seeing a baby picture or two on there before. I think it's supposed to be just animals. I think. I don't really know. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't really remember. I don't really care. It's just something that's occurred to me, and now, just like anything else, now I have a curiosity. It must be fulfilled at some point. So, I don't know. I'll look on Reddit later. It's not like I'm going to be abstaining from it. Although, this is one of those times where I wish I had, like, a self-driving car. Or at least, like, the Tesla Autopilot, where it would just keep lane or whatever. So that I can just Reddit and drive. Not that that's the thing that you should do. Don't do that. Don't follow that advice. But if you had a true self-driving car, then maybe you could get away with that. But I feel like even when we have, like, the beginnings of real self-driving cars, they're going to want a human paying attention for when the computer messes something up. And I think I've talked about this before. But it's the thing with self-driving cars. They don't need to be perfect. They just need to be better than us. But us and a computer is probably almost always going to be smarter than just a computer on its own, because two heads are better than one. Unfortunately, if the computer can think far more and far faster than you can as a person, as a human being, with a mushy, biological, electrochemical brain, then you're pretty useless, you stupid meatbag. But there's always the chance that... I did the wrong thing. There's always the chance that a computer might not catch something because their perception is, well, right now at least, more limited than ours. They can't see and understand as much stuff as we, the stupid meatbags, can. So, that's what I'm getting at. I could believe, look at, what is the thing, the Rio Tinto, the auto haul that goes on, or the thing that they're working on in, I almost called it Alaska or Antarctica. It's not cold, it's the other one. They're working on in Australia, where everything's trying to kill you. So in order to keep human beings out of the murderous desert, it mostly kills you from boredom, though. And drop bears. They're working on the Autohaul project, which is to make, their iron ore trains autonomous, or at least as close as they can get. They are currently, if I recall correctly, planning or doing a test, but the test does have to be operated with someone in the cab, just in case something goes wrong, obviously, because it's a test. They also don't want to be laying people off as a result of the Autohaul program. It's, it's not a replacement for an engineer, it's just a tool for those long, those 100-kilometer journees, where you've got nothing to do but stare at a dead straight stretch of rail. A dead straight single stretch of rail, mind you. So I mean, I can understand why they're doing it, and I feel like that is going to be, unless somebody comes out of the woodwork with a different one, that is almost certainly going to be our first, true automated train. And, aside from, the little automated shuttles at airports or whatever. No, first automated train. Like serious, honest to God. It's a diesel locomotive with a bunch of freight cars behind it, winding or driving, I guess, not really winding, across the desert, across, through the real world. The other reason I feel like they could be pushing for this, although they didn't say if the issue was a result of or even had anything to do with AutoHaul, which would be curious, which is why I was curious about this. They had that giant derailment a little while ago, and it was a derailment that was done on purpose because they had a runaway train. Again, they didn't mention if this runaway train had anything to do with AutoHaul. I'm inclined to not think so. Again, because nothing was mentioned. But again, the omission doesn't mean it wasn't true. They can not say it was equipped with AutoHaul, and AutoHaul is actually the thing that sort of let it go. But since nothing has come out about AutoHaul being the problem, and they seem to be going forward with this fairly quickly, it would stand to reason perhaps, that it was not AutoHaul that was to blame for the calamity, and they think other things are to blame for the calamity, which is why they're moving forward with AutoHaul as quickly as they are. That's just my thoughts on the project. So, yeah, that's just what crosses my mind about the Rio Tinto AutoHaul. Also, where's Handycam? Why is the window shut? Open that again so I can see what's going on. Okay, we're 36 minutes in. To open this as well. Give me a minute. I need a drink. I walked around a track earlier today, and by earlier today I mean like as of an hour ago. Madison's parents are away, and she's she's the woman of the house. She's watching her little brothers, and they're not that little. And we decided to step out. She invited me over for dinner, and we decided to step out and go to a nearby park so that we could walk around. Disclosure, it's like 34 degrees, but, it was a nice thing to do. It was, a quiet night. It was not very windy. It may have been chilly, but it wasn't, it wasn't that bad. Again, it was 34 degrees. It was just about freezing, but it wasn't freezing. And it wasn't, like it's been in the past, week or so where it's dropped down to 1 degree or 0 degrees. There was a day in this past week where I woke up, checked my phone, it was 1 degree, and as the day went on, I checked my phone again, and it had gone all the way up to 5 degrees, and that was about as high as it got. And then overnight, like last night, it went from an extremely cold system, or 2 nights ago, cold system to an extremely warm system. This low pressure system came in with much warmer weather, much wetter weather, and because of that changeover between high and low pressure too, the fact that there were different extremes there was a lot of wind as well. Which means I got Oliver to like me, just for a day, but he liked me. He was my friend. He hopped up on the couch with me while I was working on stuff, and he stayed there for a couple of hours, sort of hanging his head off the side of the couch. I'm not totally sure why. Mostly because, probably because he's a weirdo. But that's what he did. He hung out with me. He decided that the safest place to be was by my side. That means a lot to me. And if he was here now, I would give him some pats. Although he probably wouldn't really appreciate that from me. But he's not with me right now. He's at Blount's house, Blount and Rangeley and Sandy's house. And they're watching him this weekend because I'm going to be spending all my time out in Springfield. And my parents, or at least my dad and Claire, are also away. So that's something that's difficult for, not difficult, but it's a weird situation. Because normally, if they're gone, I'm here and I'm helping with the dog, and I'm feeding and watering the animals, and, cleaning the litter box, taking Oliver out, that sort of thing. He's, generally we fall into this rhythm where I'm doing all these things, and it's not that unusual. Now it's really unusual because not only am I alone in the house, Oliver isn't here. I'm really alone in the house. It's myself and the cats. And the cats, as you guys know, really don't want anything to do with me. So they're content to sit on the bed and stare out the window and wait for Mama and Dada to come home. Uh, so yeah, that's going to be my life for the next couple of days. I've got 3 hours of driving tomorrow, and then 6 hours on Sunday, because I have to leave here at about 6 o'clock to get to Fitchburg for 7:30, to get to Springfield for 9. The reason is that I have to pick up T-Jodge, like previously explained. He's back in Fitchburg. What a pain. Why does he have to do this to me? Son of a gun. If there was an easier way for him to get there, I would have told him to take it. Ideally, at some point in the not-so-distant future, the Boston Surface Railroad will come in and provide service from Lowell, which is in his neck of the woods, to Worcester, and even to Providence. But that's something that's not in the immediate future. That's something that's going to happen, hopefully, within our lifetimes. They're looking at a projected start date in 2020 sometime, but that remains to be seen, and I'm not particularly, I'm optimistic about the project as a whole. I'm not optimistic about that launch date, because they've already had to push it back several times, and they only have one engine now. They bought 2 at auction, and they gave 1 away, or they sold 1. So, I don't know. I don't know what's up with them. I'm not about to really go to Woonsocket and ask, because I'm sure there's plenty going on. They probably are just doing a lot of waiting for permits. But I would assume it's not that much office work. It's probably just, a lot of negotiations and contracts, and, maybe just the core people and a secretary or 2. I wouldn't expect that that's a very expensive operation to run right now. And the guy seems to be more than happy with, putting his own money into it, and the investor, they have investors that have put money into it. So it's not totally like, oh, this project is clearly drowning. They have the backing of the towns. They have, I believe, an agreement with GNW already, which is nice. They have an engine. They only don't have coaches. And that's that's maybe their number one issue right now. Their other thing is they need to be doing track work, which that's the thing why I think they have an agreement with GNW. I'm fairly certain that track work for their railroad or for their service to be feasible is already underway, if I understand correctly. And that, and hopefully all this capital goes somewhere, It doesn't just disappear and the guy just disappears and they end up in the history books, on some dusty page on the footnote saying, the Boston Surface Railroad once advertised this route, but it never came to fruition. Doesn't that suck? So, yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. That would be nice. But really, it's because it'd be nice to have a belt line. And, yeah, I'm speaking selfishly, I would like to be able to get back and forth to where TJ is in Fitchburg more easily. But by the time that comes about, so he's a freshman now. No, he's a sophomore. No. What is he? I don't know. I don't know what T-Jodge is right now. I think he's a sophomore, right? Freshman? Maybe. So when I was a freshman, he was a... No, because he's the same... I don't know. I think he's a freshman. I think he's a freshman. I don't know. I forget. Time flies. I feel old. I feel like an adult. I feel like, I blink for a minute and then people are older and time has gone by. And, one day you'll find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. You people all should know those lyrics. Not just because they're a legendary song by a legendary band, but because they really mean a lot when you think about them and think about the meaning and whatever. It's the same sort of... It's a more wordy way of saying carpe diem and reminding you that every day you waste is a day you're not going to get back. The time that you spend on this planet is finite, so you better make it worthwhile. And don't just lollygag. Like this guy. Don't just sit around building trains routes all day. There's no future in that. Nobody will care. Nobody will watch. You know, that sort of thing. It's completely worthless. I actually just want less competition. Actually, I plugged myself on a thing. Oh, attention foamers. There's somebody on Reddit that needs your help. Although, the post may be a little bit old now. There was a post by somebody whose name escapes me. Is there no wire on this set? There was a post by somebody whose name escapes me, that they are new to the trains community, or at least they haven't really played with trains before now, trains with a Z specifically, and they were wondering where to get good freeware. Specifically, they said routes and sessions. And I did my best to point them in the correct direction with feedback from people in the Terminus guest list, or not guest list, feedback in the Terminus fan chat. But I only know so much because I get all my stuff off the DLS. They were basically grousing about the fact that the DLS is difficult to sometimes get a handle on and is not that helpful, and to an extent I agree. It is very, very helpful if you need like something within a category that you can look up, like drawbridge. You know, then you can find all the drawbridges ever. But unless you know what you're looking for, it can be difficult. You know, you're just scrolling through an endless list of routes and sessions, and you can't really discern what's good and what's bad, because it's not like things are not like things are rated. That'd be a nice thing to have on the DLS, a rating system, you know, 1 through 5 stars or something. So that you would get better things. Or so that you'd know what was better and what was not. But I suppose every person needs a different thing, so I don't know. The DLS is something special. It's not as functional as some other things like it, but at the same time, it's very, very nice to have. And the fact that anyone can just put something up there and go, yeah, there it goes. You know, now anyone can access it for free, is pretty great. And it's one of the best things about trains in general. Trains with a Z, specifically. It's one of the best things about trains, is the fact that once you buy the game, you have this basically limitless amount of content to pull from. Because when are you ever going to really realistically run out of all this stuff? There's so much stuff. You know, I haven't downloaded a tiny fraction of it, and I am so swamped. There was another thing that I actually thought of that crossed my mind that I wanted to download, and I can't remember what it was. I was looking at different buildings, engine sheds, and stuff like that, because I wanted that little shed that I had the diesel in at the beginning of the episode. And eventually I found that, although I need to check that it is on the download station. But right now we're not on a normal version of the route. So it doesn't really matter as much. See, right now I'm on what I've dubbed the B version, which is, it's a movie, and there are these honeybees, and they can talk, but they're not allowed to communicate with humans. And so in this universe there are some bees, and that doesn't actually matter, because the bee in this case refers to the fact that it is not a main version. So it's not a main version because I have non-DLS assets on this route right now. Ooh, look at me, I'm being a rebel. Not really. In fact, we have permission to reskin them and upload them to the DLS, and now that I've decided that I like them, Mason is going to do it, because he's the one that created the models. He's going to do it at his own leisure, and then everyone will be able to download them. The only reason I don't want to upload them myself is because he really deserves the credit for them. He's the one that, you know, it's his authored on the QID, so that's, you know, that matters to me. I've uploaded things before, I'm okay with uploading things, but it's his name on the thing, and I wouldn't want to take that away from him. I did put his name in the description as well, because I modified the description of the engines along with a couple of other things, including the cab. I swapped out the cab for the undecorated engine for a painted one that looks similar to the one that we're using. And if you're wondering what engines, and I do mean engines more than one, if you're wondering what they are, go back to the beginning of the video and look at the alcoves on the bridge. They are painted up for the Volga Mountains Railroad, that orange and green. It's based off of the Rutland green and yellow that was on their RS3s and is on any B&W RS3s. And so I had him make that for me because, not because I really wanted a reskin and I wanted it right now, like it's my reskin and I need it now. Not because of that, but because of the fact that the engine spec on those engines was abysmal. If anyone has ever played around with any of the RS3s on the DLS, I'm 99% certain that whatever engine you played with, whatever RS3 you played with, it was a reskin of that exact RS3. And you will probably realize that the brakes are just straight up garbage. And that's the other reason why we were having problems with the engine coming rolling into Olive and smashing into the switcher. It wasn't just because things were programmed incorrectly, although they totally were, and that contributed a lot, but the issues were compounded by the fact that the train just couldn't properly stop in time. It would overrun all the red signals, and it would basically just drive past the end of any siding I put it in. Need a drink? That includes both the siding where the train comes to rest, which I at one point screen shared that, and boy, is it kind of funny but kind of rough when you have those engine specs in, because there happens to be another train going by there at basically the exact same time, and they almost collide. And if I had moved the track mark at all, or if I hadn't moved the track mark because I moved it back, there would have been a major collision there. Again, between the switcher and the trailer and flat car train. So that's something that I'm trying to avoid. Of course, you might expect, is collisions. Partly because obviously they're not something you want to happen on a normal running railroad, but partly because I don't know what will happen if I have two programmed drivers on two engines that are coupled to one another. And there are some experiments that I want to run with that, and I'm not certain that it's something that can be done. But if it is something that can be done, that means I'll be able to actually show helper service being taken on and put off at the various locations on the route. One of the locations... Oh, you know what? This should not be like this. This has to be the other texture. One of the locations that helpers would be coming on and off is in Olive. So, if I figure out how to do that, I've already basically got the groundwork laid for that. The other thing is, I should go into Olive and check to see if the engine that's there, if the, whatchamacallit, if there is a decapod in that engine house, and I don't know if it can fit on the turntable. It's the closest thing I have to a half-decent Mikado. It's not a Mikado, obviously, but it's getting there. It's getting there. That last driver set is going to drop any day. It's just going to turn into a trailing truck. That's what happens. No, but in all seriousness, I'm a little tight on steam freight engines because of the lack of Mikados on the download station. The thing that I could always do is go and seek out all the different Ben Neal parts that are on the DLS and assemble one, and then repost it, but I don't really want to do that because it feels like I'm, trying to get around his system of assets. But the other thing is, that's something that, if I have to ask permission for it, he might even say no, because it's a little bit wonky. I'm sure if I explain myself, he will, he might give me a pass, but that's something that, that has to be done. And so I will ask him, perhaps I'll send him an email if things, if the going really gets tough. But I don't want it to come to that, and right now I'm content to live without Mikados, at least for the time being. I think that they are definitely a staple of, steam railroading. They're one of the most heavily produced wheel arrangements ever. Probably second to, like, Pacifics or something, But, and I actually don't know the numbers on that, but the thing is, I just don't want to be, I don't want to be playing with this stuff behind his back, but I also don't want to pester him with something that, he's more than likely going to think, well, why can't he just get it on the website? So, yeah. Really, in reality, I could always upload his dependencies, or steal his dependencies, or whatever. Or not upload, but ask him to upload his dependencies. And that would be, that would get me the same effect, and it would actually work with all the engines. It would make everyone's life a little bit easier. But I suspect that he wants people to go to his website. So, that's just my thought. I will, I do have to send an email. I have to ask. Ben Neal, Mr. Subpar Productions. It's unfortunate that I have to. Dear Director. Dear Chairman. Dear Jerry. There is a Dear Jerry. For those who don't know, the voice of Benjamin in the Iron Horseman Chronicles, Benjamin is the narrow gauge head, is based solely on the director of Project Freelancer from Red vs. Blue. And I really loved that drawl. Not that I can really impersonate it, but I really loved it. And I thought it had such an amazing sound that I wanted to be able to replicate it, and I wanted to at least try my hand at replicating it. And of course, any self-respecting Southerner can point out that, or can pick out that I'm basically just making something up. But that's what it's based off of. And it is a really fun thing to do, and a fun thing to write for, too, because he has this very methodical way of speaking, and almost like a very legalese kind of tone. It's, I don't know, it's fun to do. At least for me. I really love doing all of the voices, all the accents, all the everything that I get to do for the Iron Horseman Chronicles, and that's another reason why I wish I had more time to do the Iron Horseman Chronicles. No update on that, by the way. I want to do about a scene. I want to do, at worst, a scene a month, and I haven't done one yet this month. There's one that I can finish, but it's going to need some Foley and stuff, which I'm not a Foley artist by any stretch of the imagination. TJ is much better at that than I am, but given time, maybe on Monday or Tuesday, when we're not doing the podcast, because the podcast is this weekend, and it's probably not going to happen on the weekend, given time, I should be able to conjure something up, at least to send to TJ and go, okay, can you put some sound effects on this? I want him to Rule the World a once-over and put music and sound effects in it as he sees fit once production is done. That's something that I would really like him to do, because I'm not that good at that. And in general, he's the best video editor in the group, because he goes to school for that sort of thing, but also because he just has a lot of experience, and I may have a lot of experience, but it's not good experience. He's gone into competitions and stuff like that. He actually really cares about this craft of his, whereas I am someone who does it at best for a hobby. So, I will virtually always defer to him if he knows something about the editing or whatever. Because he knows. That's his thing. We almost have made it out of the jungle here into the area that doesn't have texture, and that's when we're gonna have to stop texturing and grassing and stuff like that. Because right here is the last area where I put trees, and the last area that I put put ground texture, which is the more important thing right now, if I end up putting down this ground texture, if I end up putting down the manually done ground texture and then I go to do more copy pasting in the area, it'll overwrite the old ground texture. It'll even overwrite these culvert pipes. So that's something I need to pay attention to when I go to do it next time. Because objects will overwrite objects, textures will overwrite textures, splines will overwrite splines, that sort of thing. If you have it selected and you have the replace option on, that's what it will do. If you don't have the replace option on, it will add stuff on top of what you've currently got and not delete what you have. But the reason I don't do that is because I already have a problem with there being a just plain ridiculous number of trees on the route. I don't need to start creating areas where the tree density is even higher than it is. And clicking twice will give double density over whatever area you clicked on. It'll either put 2 in the exact same spot, which isn't helpful and will look weird, and will still cause performance deficiencies, further than just the whole route in general. But it will have. If I set it slightly offset, then you'll be seeing double vision, and it'll still have performance degradation. Just the word I'm looking for. I was thinking, what's the lack of enhancements? What's the opposite of enhancement? Degradation. It'll get worse. So I don't want the performance of this route to get worse than it has to. But this isn't the UMR. This isn't that. The UMR. I don't have it downloaded, but I do know the UMR, at least to an extent. It is the kind of route that really prioritizes the track work over anything else, because it's just so goddamn huge. It didn't want to be like this, where you're fiddling with minutia for weeks on end. I feel like Martin over at Winthrop Gatan, working on his marble machine, where it feels like it's never going to get done. It's never going to be completed. And let's be honest, he's going to finish that thing years before I ever finished Tolbrand. In fact, he started his series after mine, and is much farther ahead in terms of the completion progress on his machine than I am on my machine. On my route. For the record, if you don't know who Winthrop Gatan is, you really should have caught the viral video from a few years ago now, called the Winthrop Gatan Marble Machine, which is a musical instrument that uses marbles and a programmable disc, or wheel, as he calls it, the programmable wheel, to play music when you pull the crank and touch certain things. So the device itself is really cool. The piece of music is absolutely splendid. I keep going back and listening to it, not for the spectacle of the marble machine, despite the fact that it is an amazing spectacle, but the fact that the music is amazing. And then the fact that it's being played on this cool little, not even little, on this cool device, just makes it all the more entertaining. The other thing is, the reason I bring up him and his project is because if you know what the machine is, you may also know that Winthrop Gatan has a YouTube channel where Martin, the creator of the machine, is slowly building a new marble machine called the Marble Machine X, and that he plans to take on a world tour at some point, once it is complete and once they have a couple of backups in case something goes wrong, and spare parts and stuff. But he has been going through and basically handcrafting countless parts. Some are laser cut, some are CNC'd, some are 3D printed, but a lot of the stuff he's doing by hand, and he shows the process, including the CAD modeling, the trial and error, and the final construction and assembly of all of these parts. Which, I'm not a mechie, but it's really, really cool. Even as someone who is a civil engineer and works with things that aren't supposed to move, whereas that is a very, very cool, but solely mechanical device that is supposed to move, and also supposed to play music. But I have been absolutely fascinated by this series because I heard about it back in the day, like when he started or so, maybe a little while after that, because I remember watching some of the much, much older videos. And then it totally dropped off my radar for probably at least half a year. And now it's back on my radar, and now I'm subscribed to Winter Catan, and God, it's a great series. It's one of my favorite series on YouTube. It's up there with like the Great War stuff. Time Ghost stuff. What a great channel that is too. Anyway, go watch Time Ghost, and go watch the Winter Catan Marble Machine X Construction. Both fantastic channels. The Time Ghost is of course called Time Ghost, and the Winter Catan channel is just called Winter Catan. Winter and then Gatan. Oh, sorry, Gatan. Yeah. So, yeah, check them out. They're both amazing. Time Ghost is historical. They do what's called a chronological documentary, where they go day by day or week by week in an event. Currently, they're actually... Uh-oh. That's foreboding. Guys, we're going to crash. I'm going to save. I'm going to save a new route in session. So we're going to sit here for a minute while it does that. When trees start appearing in areas that they shouldn't be, where I know they're not supposed to be, either hovering or in the middle of nowhere like this, or in the case of sometimes they just appear wildly out of scale, like gigantic, I know that the game is going to crash. So I would not be surprised if it crashes soon, and I don't want to lose this progress. We will almost certainly lose some footage if it does crash, but hopefully it gets past this point where I'm explaining that, and if the video ends up being short by a little while, that would be the reason why. So I'm going to let it run through this. It's going to save it as another version. Always, make tons of new versions of your routes. That's my recommendation for anybody working on a route, especially a large one, but really just anyone where you've got something to lose. If there's something good there, save it, save it, save it, save it, save it. Save it in a million different places. Save it often. Save it as multiple copies. Do everything you can to make sure that if something goes wrong with that file, it's, you have something to fall back on. I had an issue recently where I lost a good number of hours of work over in Mason Valley, and it really annoyed me because it just fell back to a different thing, but I think it fell back to the previous version. The changes they hadn't stuck. So I don't know. That uh-oh. Did it just do it? Did we crash it? Oh, no, okay. The tree is still there, though. Very suspicious tree, making me apprehensive. Alright, we're going to go away from the suspicious tree. We're going to go somewhere else. We're going to work elsewhere for now. All this pretty much is going to be forested area. I might chop down some trees in order to, still leave some room next to the track so that you can see the view. But yeah. So something occurred to me, right? Chris mentioned to me at one point about having a height unlimited route. And when you have bridges like this, or whatever, you don't have a height unlimited route. And if you have tunnels, you don't either. It means you're being constrained by the by the infrastructure that you have. Not ideal. This railroad, I really don't have that much choice because we've got, plenty of tunnels and things like that. But the one railroad where I might be able to make that a reality is the Gilson Eastern. Unfortunately, we have a lot of bridges over the Gilson Eastern, so that's really not an option either. And they're very low bridges with very, very tight clearances, which is something that, has been pointed out to me before, and that I've noticed before, and, whatever. It's just, I would raise them more, but as long as it clears, I'm happy. And I don't know. As long as it clears, I'm happy. And to raise it more would actually make the area around it potentially look a lot worse or a lot weirder. So there are a multitude of reasons why things are the way they are. But if in the future I look at making a route height unlimited, it will be the Gilson Eastern. However, there is one bridge that I will not change. It's a truss bridge. It's a through truss bridge, and I don't intend to change it because there's another bridge that you could take. Unfortunately, the other bridge that you could take happens to be one way. It's got 2 tracks on it, but it's, they're both southbound railroad south. They're both railroad south tracks. So that'll be an interesting thing to program with the AI and the interlocking towers to get that all set up. Anyway, speaking of interlocking towers, there's a thing that I want to do. Although we're not looking at it. It's actually somewhere else. So let's do some ATLS. It's not something we've done in a while. I was going to work on stuff over there, but now that the trolley system is getting a little bit bigger, and now that we have a train that goes back and forth on a regular basis, I think it's about time that we get this set up. So we have these. The other thing we need are ATLS traffic stoppers. Let's see. Let's just search up ATLS. ATLS controller. Oh, I need to remember how to do all this. NRC traffic stopper. Oh, ATLS traffic stopper 12-meter rollable. What the hell? I don't know what this is. Man, if somebody can explain that to me, I'll be happy. Traffic stopper. Okay. So I want to put this right here. Alright, I need this. Good. And that. Good. The thing that I don't want to do is disrupt this so much that the tram track looks, well, really any different. But I'll have to do that afterward, and really the tram track has to conform to the road. It's really, the tram track is the easier thing. Oh, for God's sake. Come on now. But the thing is, I don't know if I can get the traffic stopper to activate using an interlocking tower. This is not something I've tried. In fact, I'm going to grab the interlocking tower, I'm going to bring it over here. Alright, so where did I put it? It should be right in the corner here. There you are. Okay. You're going to come with me, because you're controlling everything for the branch line. Come here. Alright, we're going to put you right here. We've got 2 ATLS things. Traffic stoppers. And we're going to need more of these elsewhere on the route, but for now, we just need the 2 of them. Alright, put that like there or so, and then we're going to connect the thing to it. Yeah, see, it swings the road out a little more than it otherwise was swung out. The other thing is I need to, well, what I should do is I should shift it in so it doesn't do that. The thing is, cars love to get stuck in between the gates, which I wish was not a thing, but it totally is, and it happens a lot. So, yeah. Here's the other thing. So I'm going to move this out of the way. No, not that. Move that out of the way, we'll deal with it later. Okay, let's put the other traffic stopper into place. For those who don't know how to do ATLS, this is how you do it. Except normally it involves more cursing and hating oneself. Just kidding, I hate myself plenty. So, let's attach that, grab this, attach that, grab this, attach that. We're gonna, again, have to fix the tram track to make this a little bit better. But right now what I can do is I can change the height of the traffic stoppers. No! Wrong one. No. There. I can change the height of the traffic stoppers just to help it a little bit. You know what? If we can see all the rails, I'm pretty happy. So we have that. Now the other thing I want is... These are Japanese. Oh, those are ATLS lights. Okay, we will need a controller, I believe. But here's the thing, right? I want to add a couple of things, not the least of which being a signal right there, which is just going to be a dwarf. Where's the dwarf leading in? Should be right with the yard limit sign. Where's the yard limit sign? There you go. Clear that. So I'm going to do that. No, come on. Come on. Let me do what I want. No. No, no, no. Over there. Damn it. I had it too. There we go. Popped right into place. Why do those lights not show up when you're far away? Or when you're too close? No idea. Okay, so we have that. We have this for the way in. The other thing I want, so we've got that over there. So this line as it stands has a lot of signals on it. I don't really want to use invisible signals because it's really tough to keep track of those when you're in driver, as one might expect. And actually, you know what? I'm not going to use a pedestal one. I think that's a switch indicator. I think I'll just use a regular dwarf. Yep. For that. The thing is... Actually, you know what? I can have it select a path not based on a signal. It'll just be between two signals. And I don't know if it'll let me do that if I'm already in the path. So that's something that might be worth testing. But the path, let's see. Let's see. So if we look at this real quick, and I need a couple of other things. I need an ATLS slave unit, I'm pretty sure. ATLS slave. I also need some traffic lights. Or, sorry, some gates. Crossing gates. These are all crossings. Let's see. Is there one that actually just, like, does what I want? No. I just want, Oh, hey, that's fun. crossing sign. Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, so this looks like... This looks like ATLS. It looks a little modern, that's the thing, but it can be really tough to tell with these. You know, just in real life, it's tough to tell sometimes. What is this? Why is this different than... How is that different than that? I'm not seeing the difference. M versus... Is M like modern? Alright, that's the other thing though. I need to check what I can use and what I can't. So, let me go over here into the Content Manager. Let me go to On Download Station, remove the not installed thing, and look for Crossing. So we should see a very similar list to what we're seeing over here. Oh, these are NRC ones. I wonder if I can hook them up to... Oh, wait, NRC. That's different than TRC. TRC is the other thing, right? This looks like a, this looks like an ATLS thing. And it looks better than that. It's not hooded. It's hooded. Oh, okay, it has a sign. Oh, I see, I see. Okay, interesting. Okay, let's look to see what that has returned. Okay, so, what can't we use? A great number of things. What can we use? Oh wait, no. This is all the stuff that we can use because this is all on the download station. So even this modified stuff, all this NRC stuff, I can use. I can use, yeah, all the NRC stuff, and that's it. So the other stuff I was looking at, the RR stuff, the stuff that's sitting down, or that we have sitting there, is not stuff that I can use. So that means I can't use these. They're too nice. I assume they're jointed rail. But I can use these. So this is what I'm going to use. And in fact, I'm going to use one of the stop ones. Okay, so we'll do that. I think that should line up with that. At least it should sort of allow that to happen. So that goes there. The other thing is I need to connect it with Invisible Track. ATLS, or no, let's see. Let's try, oh wait, duh. What is the invisible track that we normally use for ATLS? Let's see, do we have ATLS invisible track? I think we do, but that's SY, ATLS. No. Alright, time to go back to the last place we've done an ATLS crossing and get the track from there, because I just want it to be the same. Right, come here. Come here. Give me the track. It's at this crossing here. It's this kind of track. AJS. AJS. Not ATLS, but AJS. Awesome. Okay, so we're still getting places. We're setting this up. I'm not going to be able to test this today, but this is something that I didn't want to do. So this to this, attach that to here. Attach this to traffic stopper. Okay, wait, hold on. Let's do something a little bit different. So that's attached to both. I have an extra spline point for no reason. Get rid of that spline point. Let's see about this one. Does this have both of the things attached? No, it doesn't. Now I'm trying to move the road. I attach that to over there. Oh, we've still got comments, huh? Crap. Highball Production says, if you could, would you use cab forwards on the railroads? Yes, probably the Zion and Skyline would be the ones. Would be the one to get cab forwards. They're the only people that really care that much about malaise, and I feel like they're the only ones that just wouldn't say, it's not worth the expense. So that's my thought. There are definitely railroads that could use cab forwards, so there's always the chance that railroads may have had them. But anyway, these are real close. Let's see. Well, the only reason they're so close is because I'm just trying to make sure that we don't get cars that crash into the gates every time. But I know they should be a little bit farther back. Okay, so the other thing is, we've got this trolley line, right? So, we also need the triggers. I don't even like that joke, and I catch myself saying it. Okay. ATLS trigger. So I'm going to do it for trigger mode. And this is going to start like when the train's over here around the corner. Because this train could be going like 40 miles an hour. Alright. I don't remember what the standard is for putting these things, but they're far enough. I'm also going to move these a little bit farther away. There we go. Okay, so we have the master, we have the slave, we have the triggers, we have the traffic stoppers, and we have gates. We have everything you need for a successful ATLS crossing, except this is not your average ATLS crossing. This is going to be what you might call a pain in the neck. So, the thing with this is, right, I can only do so much to keep the trams and the cars from clipping into one another. And that's going to be something that we're just going to have to ignore. The thing that I'm not going to have to ignore is the trams of the train. Anyway. Zombie Slayer. Zomb1E Slayer 234. Oh god, this comment. He goes, I need a response to this ASAP. I tried to download the PRT1 DLC off Amazon. It's not downloading properly. How do I fix this? I'm trying it for TS12 or 14. First of all, make sure that you got the right thing, I guess. I'm not sure. It should give you a code which you will put into your, into your thing on Planet Auron, just like as if you had bought the game and you were registering the game, and then it should be able to download. You don't really specify what your problem is, so I'm not sure how I can help. if anything, opened a support ticket on, the N3V forums or whatever. I'm not sure how to get to those anymore, the support tickets. But, I don't know, it's definitely a way to do it. I have had problems with it before, and I didn't get it. They did help me. Let's try 20. Do this. LCM, level crossing mode. So, yeah, I don't know. Alright, so let's change these all to channel 20. Smart train priority. 2 rounding, 4 trigger system. What is this? Tram trigger. A tram stopper. Ooh. I may need that. Tram stopper. Let me... Oh God. This is really something. I don't know how the tram stoppers work. I want to know how they do. Because that'll keep me from using a thing. So that's 76656500013. Okay, so let me look up just tram stopper. Tram stopper. We're gonna learn this. We're gonna learn some stuff right now. Let me tell you. While I'm searching that, let's finish changing all these to zone 20 or channel 20. Assign to channel 20. Asset to monitor trams en route. SPL. What is that? Does allow priority tram crossing ATLs for road junction. Use primary signal guard at road junctions. This is just a regular ATLS trigger, though. I don't think I need it to monitor trams en route. Mason, if I'm doing something wrong, you say so, okay? I do that, and then I set... Oh, wait. Okay. Okay, no, I do need to have it set to that so that I can have it be two-way running. Whoops. Two-way running, 4-trigger system. Okay, change this to 20. Change this to, whoops, I did it again. I clicked twice. I want that. Two-way running, 4-trigger system. And then this is two-way running, 4-trigger system. I just need to make sure. Did I, wait, but did I, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Two running for the system, asset 20, or level 20, level 20, level 20. Did I put that one on channel 20? Yes. This needs to be on channel 20. Oh, it's not that kind of thing. Let's select it like so. Let's put it on channel -1. 20. Level crossing mode selected. The other thing I need, though, is I need... Yeah, so... Okay, ATLS tram stoppers, I found them. I'm going to download one. Hopefully this doesn't screw with stuff. Also, I hope it's not big and it won't take forever. Let's see, how much time do we have? We have another 25 minutes. Icer has a nice fat comment for us. It's not as big as some of the past comments, which is why I didn't freak out like, oh god, oh god, I have only half an hour left to respond to this comment. Also, wait, did that download already? Is it done? It's done. It's done! Hold on, let's go get it and see what it does. And then I'll go to the comment. ATLS tram stopper. Oh, that's what that is. Okay. Force go on ATLS clear. What is this? Only for trams, especially... Schedule the force go state so transfer unsignaled section of track. The next section of track is signaled. Untick the box above and it will clear to normal automatic. A tram stop is not required if using a standalone tram signal. So turn that off. Set to channel 20. All the settings we say blah blah blah. Well, this is weird. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of these two signals then, because these function as automatic signals on their own, as just described by that tool. And I can't believe that these are a real thing, because this is fantastic. This is what I wanted. It's what I like. Alright, set to 20. Okay, maybe this will work. Then I won't need this, which makes my life a whole lot easier. Okay, so the other thing is Icer's comment. He says, first of all, shout out to the cat meowing for attention in the background. Yeah, thankfully we've got no cat today because the door is open because nobody else is here. He goes, so the Seaford Bridge is a real bridge for those that don't know, and it's that low because the canal that it crosses is not that deep either. Well, yeah, I kind of figured. I know that it's, sometimes the stuff below the waterline doesn't get built, or even doesn't get shown. But in this case, I did realize that it was like, it's just a really short bridge. Obviously, you don't need that much clearance when you're dealing with a swing bridge because it swings out of the way. You don't need that much clearance above the surface of the water. Just saying. Oh, you know what? Let me go to it for those who don't know what the hell he's talking about. This swing bridge. I have a problem with it because it's hovering right now. And yet it's one of the only bridges that actually serves the purpose that I need right now, right here. He goes, there's also signals on either end to stop any trains from crossing while any commercial or residential traffic to pass. What is residential traffic? I assume you mean like pleasure boats, although if you know more about this than I do. Well, you clearly do. I did actually add signals at both ends just now, because there was a problem where the train wouldn't come this way because it was on the signals area. So now I understand why you hate PC for fudging up the rail lines that would have lasted longer than they did. Oh yeah. So I got into it again with Milky and with Chris and with everybody else, just talking about, well, just Penn Central and Conrail and railroading in general. And Garrett was there, and he really hadn't been privy to those discussions in the past, so he got to be a part of it as well, which was cool. But yeah, so I don't like them. Unlike Conrail, like I previously said, unlike Conrail, they don't have a lot going for them. They could have hypothetically done good things, but there were very few win conditions there. Okay, so these are the roads that I need to use, by the way, for this. what we're going to do here is we're going to delete this road here, and we're going to run the tram down the middle of the road in a median until it gets to here. Then previously it would have gone onto this bridge, but now it actually just sort of loops around the waterfront. It has a station here, and then it continues in this direction where it eventually gets to the station here. So that's where I'm at. And the other thing is I need to redo the road network here because the blocks are way too big, and the road network is honestly kind of unrealistic. So yeah, that's what needs to be done in here. And Mason actually sent me a picture or a thing about what... He sent me a picture or a thing about... A picture and a thing. A picture and a write-up of what the what I should do to make this look good. And so now I need to go in here, I need to go and scroll all the way up, and I need to like write down what he said, because I sort of let it disappear because I just didn't get I didn't get the chance to actually act on it when I asked him about it, but he immediately came out with something that looked awesome. And it was with these Madcam roads, or what are they? These macadam roads, which are fantiddlyastic. This is a plus S1, so this actually has that. And it seems to have traffic in both directions. 30 feet SI1. I think this is a one-way road, considering it's not. Damn it. Crap, what did he use? I'm looking at the picture. It's really cool, really nice. Roads are Yarnish Macadam 30 feet. These are them, but they don't seem to be one way. So are there ones that I'm missing or something? What the hell did I just do? Okay, so also one of the things was... Okay, alright, the other thing is, while we're here, right? While we're here, doing this, redoing all these roads, what I might do... Or, well, while we're here redoing all these roads, I'm going to redo all the roads. I had originally done things a certain way with these Yarnish roads. I like these a lot more. These are very, very nice. And Mason, I'm glad that you pointed them out to me. The other thing with them, though, is the fact that I need to make them work. I need to make them do whatever. I need a 48 feet to 30 feet converter or something. 38 feet to 40 feet converter. 30 to 60. Madcam, or Macadam, Maine. Oh, this is really nice. This is really nice. Oh man, these are the nicest roads I've ever had. So I'm wondering if there is, now, these are Main Street ones. These are the same sort of thing. They've got parking, now we've got these. Those are like the hard surface ones. But, okay, so if we head this way, right, I'm going to mark out the line using just the overhead poles. And these are, so Mason actually said, okay, the poles are this, or this. He gave me a list of everything that he used in the scene, which I can't state enough how appreciative I am of that. But he actually named these specifically, and I was like, I already used those. Those are the one thing where I was like, I know what those are. I saw them in the picture. So, while I am going to bring this up to the bridge's edge, I don't think I'm going to run this on the bridge. And the reason for that is not one of like a realism thing, it's one of a practicality thing. Because I know full well that this bridge is going to take a while to close, and if I'm running trams or trolleys on a pretty tight and relatively short schedule, then they're really, like, it just won't work. It won't work. Especially if the bridge has to stay open because there's a boat or something that's forcing it open. Not something I really feel like dealing with right now. So, yeah. The other thing I need to think about, though, is I need to think about the road network here and what I'm playing with. So, we have all the industrial stuff over here. And we have a little bit more industrial stuff over here and a little bit more over here on this side of the river, but that doesn't matter right now. There are not going to be tram tracks down here. There are going to be tram tracks over here to the station. And I don't know where I want to put the car barn. Possibly over here. That might actually make sense. I was going to put like a fort or something over here, but this area might be good for, you know, to sort of leave a little bit of industrial development or whatever. Or actually, oh, you know what? I just came up with it. I know what we're doing. So I need a car barn or an engine shed or something. Milky, help me out here. Let's see. Car. Cross. No, wrong thing. And I'm going to go through the exact same thing I went through last time because I was looking for car shops, and I just typed in car, and it did not help me really. But the thing is, the thing that I'll do in order to keep this bridge relevant, but at the same time to make sure that it isn't closing and opening all the time, I'm going to take the car shop and put it over here. And then I'll have these run into here, into the car shop. I am smart sometimes. The other thing that I want to do, which is another quirky little thing to do around here, is I want to have this line merge in with the tram track to cross the bridge. Not that there would be anything that's served over here, at least not anymore, but it could be interesting to see this, because this would happen. This has happened from time to time. There's one instance in Boston where the Fore River Railroad, which shares its right-of-way with, which crossed a tram line, a trolley line, at one point built a spur to connect the two. And it was not for the freight trains to go on the trolley tracks, but vice versa. But this is just the flip side of that coin. And I'm tempted to do it just because it's another really cool thing that we can do in this area on this map. And it would allow me to put like one or two industries over here, maybe. Which, because this is on the banks of the river, again, makes sense that they would be there. Anyway, I digress with the sense/nonsense. The other thing I need to do is I need to channelize this river a little bit more. In fact, I might even want to tighten it up more. But I don't want to go through all the houses. Oh, you know what? I deleted my Alright, let's see if there's anything on the DLS for car barn. I'm sure Milky would know exactly the thing to pick here. But I want to put the car barn over here. So for now, what I'll do is get like a steel shed. And okay, there's only one BWT car barn. It doesn't have a preview. It does have a preview. It's old and ugly as hell. That's a very modern shed. It's too modern. The thing that I want is there's a metal thing that I've used elsewhere on the route that I would like to put here as sort of a representative thing to put here. You know what? Maybe that's good enough for now. Alright, so I'm going to put this here, and we're going to figure out the rest of it later. The other thing is I do need to make a loop in order to actually bring these things back. And as a side note from that, I'm probably going to delete this section of road right here. Huh! That's kind of funny. It's a spline. Freight shed spline. Oh man, you can make this freight shed as long as you want. And crooked. Storage shed spline. Same sort of thing. TSP station canopy spline. Oh, that's really cool. I might have to use that somewhere. Anyway, we've got 10 minutes left. Let's finish off Ice's comment. Oh yeah, this is the most controversial part of the comment. Also, I don't understand why people are so hype over UP. Yeah, like, I can see that's a big boy. What's your point? I feel that UP doesn't have a lot with as comes to the history of that railroad compared to BNSF, CSX, that moves tomorrow off the tracks, and NS. That's a great one. That moves to CSX, how tomorrow moves off the tracks. Well, see, the thing about Union Pacific, now don't get me wrong, I am not the biggest fan of Union Pacific as a whole, and I think they've done a lot of they've made a lot of poor decisions as of late, I would say. But that's just me. Although you can ask why, well, he would say the same thing. The thing with Union Pacific, though, is if you think back, they are a memorable name today, and they were a memorable name when they completed the Transcontinental Railroad 150 years ago. CSX, NS, all these modern railroads that are born of mergers may have very interesting histories. But Union Pacific is the one with the longest history, by far. And that's one of the reasons there's a lot of hype around it. I mean, the other thing is, you say, yeah, it's a big boy. Yeah, it's a big boy. Like, it's almost, for a lot of foamers, that was their first engine that they ever cared about. That was the first engine that they ever heard about. It's the big boy. It's that one. It's, it's the one you remember. It's the one you see on promotional material and everything like that. It's not a small deal. It's a really big deal. And that alone makes it special. It's, it has the publicity behind it, but when 4014 is done, it's going to be the largest running steam locomotive in the U.S., if not the world. And that's not something to scoff at, even if they are just UP. I will give high praise to anyone who is putting their time and effort into restoring a steam locomotive. Sometimes I will give it with a grain of salt if they have a particularly poor reputation. Certain railroads or organizations do. Not going to name any here. Right now. We'll name them on the podcast, I'm sure. We do that all the time. But the thing is, you can't, the thing is, restoring any steam engine, even a small steam engine, is a feat. It's a big deal. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of time. And for Union Pacific to have pulled this thing out of, storage, not really storage, but just sitting there for however many years, they just sort of pulled it out, and in a couple of years they're going to have it running. That's huge. That's incredible, honestly. There are few organizations on Earth, much less in the U.S., that can just do that with a steam engine, that have the time and the resources and the people to just do that. And, maybe I'm overstating it, but I'm trying to just give the other side of the coin here, because it's not a small deal, like I said. This is a big biggie, Ford. A big biggie. It's the kind of thing where, if you don't it's pretty easy to write it off. Whatever, they're building a steam engine. I don't get it. It's, I don't get where all the hype is coming from. It's the fact that Union Pacific is one of the most well-known names in railroading, in terms of railroads. It's the fact that Union Pacific is about to have the world's largest steam locomotive running. And I'm not saying it's the world's largest steam locomotive. I'm saying it's the world's largest steam locomotive running. They will have that. That's a big deal. It's a really big deal. It's a big boy. And that's where the hype comes from. It's not like it's not coming out of nowhere. It's not just foamers that are really excited about this. Although I will say that, in my experience, Union Pacific foamers are some of the most fanatical. Even above the ranks of Pennsy foamers. Pennsy foamers are generally, because there isn't really Pennsy left. Pennsy foamers are generally like, yes, the standard way, blah 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 blah. You've heard it from me. I might be nicknamed the Standard Man. I'm not the Standard Man. Chris is more of a Standard Man than I am. But the point is that, I still have gained this moniker. I don't lose my mind over Pennsylvania Railroad engines or equipment or, stuff like suits or lanterns or, anything. I don't spend my money on, I'm just trying to think of, like, memorabilia and train stuff. I don't know. I don't spend my money on that. I don't know. I don't know what people spend their money on. How much is a banana? $10? I just don't get it, because I like my money in my pocket, first of all. And second of all, and this is the important thing, I don't have room to put all this junk. If I were to go out and get all this stuff, I would be... all of my rooms, my den, my bedroom, everything, all my shelves would be overflowing with just copious, unstoppable amounts of stuff I bought on eBay. So I don't need to be, like, coerced into buying a thing. I'm not going to buy a thing. I'm going to go to this model railroad show, and I'm not going to spend a dime. I'm saying that right now, not out of, like, I dare you, but, like, I just don't spend money at model. I don't spend money at hobby shows. I don't see the need to. I don't need more stuff. I don't need to spend more money. I just spent a lot of money on my car that it's going to get me there. I don't need to spend even a tenth of that on railroad memorabilia. And obviously, obviously, I don't spend money, therefore nobody should spend money on railroad memorabilia. But just me personally, I don't really care that much. Even if it's Pennsy stuff. There was some stuff that I think Chris or Kevon pointed me out. I'd go, ooh, that's interesting. But that would be that. It would just, I just let it lie. I don't click on eBay links, not because I am afraid that I'm going to end the day purchasing something, but because I know that eBay is just going to send me deals after that, and I don't want to deal with all those emails that I'm going to get. And I have to delete the emails when the FBI comes. So that's I don't know. It's different for different people, and the railroad that you like, whether it be the Union Pacific because you grew up being somebody who likes the Union Pacific, because that was your first railroad that you knew, the big boy was a big name in your childhood, and it is for a lot of people, and I'm not going to discount that, not for a second. Or because you grew into it. Like, when I was young, it was probably the big boy too. I probably loved that thing. Like, there's no tomorrow. But these days, I'm more excited to see the T1 run than I am to see the big boy. But that's because that's just where my preferences lie. It still means that I want to see the big boy, though. Because, and I've already said this a bunch of times, but I can't stop repeating it, because it's a big deal. Because it's huge. Literally. In the literal sense. It is massive. And there's, it's really special. Because you won't, you don't see that everywhere, and you don't see that every day. And whether or not you like the Union Pacific, if you like steam, seeing that is basically the pinnacle. It's as good as it's going to get for now until you have 5550 or whatever other engine, 1309 or whatever. Take your pick. Whatever cool big engine that you're really interested in that is being worked on. 3713. When until that other thing is done, this is going to be the best thing out there. It's going to be the newest one. It's going to be run by a Class 1 railroad, which you don't see from any other railroad. Except, I guess, technically NS with 611. But it's just, I don't know. There's not really a way to put it into words to really get the point across, but the fact of the matter is, people care a lot about it because not only is it an icon in terms of railroading, because it was the largest engine built when it was built, and because Union Pacific is whether it's in infamy or whether it's, extraordinarily famous, it is a very, very important railroad. And because they've done this amazing turnaround, and because everyone's going to get to see the thing. It's special. It is. Trust me on that. Trust me, as someone who doesn't really love the UP. I'm saying it. Therefore, it must mean something. And the thing I was getting into with the Pennsy thing is that, I may be a standard man, in a manner of speaking, but I don't spend a lot of money on Pennsy stuff specifically because I like to spread the love around. And on top of that, I really like a lot of railroads. I like the Central. I think they made beautiful designs. I think their internal politics were much better than the Pennsylvanias. I think that their approach to what they were doing was, in many cases, better than the Pennsylvanias. I think the Pennsylvania had a few things going for it, but just like I brought up in the last episode where we were talking about Penn Central, I know the episode's supposed to be over, but it hasn't crashed yet, so let's just milk it. These are all Masons, aren't they? Yarnish. What were those roads that I'm supposed to be using? So, yeah, one of the things that I brought up was, while the New York Central was doing its best to reinvent itself and make it so that it could compete with the changing world around it, the Pennsylvania was not focused on doing that. Instead, they were focused on changing the world around it so that the Pennsylvania would not have to change. And that is not smart. It's not. It's extremely self-centered. It's an extremely self-centered point of view to think that the world is going to change so that you can continue to do exactly what you've been doing this whole time. And that was a mistake. That was a fatal mistake that the Pennsylvania made, and that led to Penn Central, and that made that mess. That's just the way it is, and a lot of railroads have gone that way. And I've totally gotten sidetracked here by blathering on about the Penn Central and New York Central. But, to sort of round it out, I would contest your point that you feel that UP doesn't have a lot of history. Because of all the American railroads that are currently on the scene right now, they undoubtedly have the most. So, again, I guess I get that it's not that interesting because it isn't fraught with a lot of hardship or whatever, and it's really easy to turn a blind eye to Union Pacific, again, because they're just sort of this monolith in the background that does their own thing under their big yellow banner. But, they're a railroad just like any other, and they have a lot of history. They have a lot. And you can go back and you can look at that. They've got, in their history, they've got the Rio Grande, even. They've got the Southern Pacific. They've got the Missouri Pacific. They've got, countless other railroads that they've absorbed over the years. And the only reason that I think, in my limited guess of this situation, and I know this is a very one-sided conversation, and I apologize if you're feeling like I'm attacking you. I don't mean to. Because, your opinion is valid. You say you feel like that, and I agree, and I'm trying to figure out why. Because, there's definitely this feeling of, the Union Pacific is just the Union Pacific. They don't really do anything interesting. despite the fact that they have steam engines running around. It's kind of a paradoxical thing, but I'm saying this because I get it too. You said what you said in the comment, and I sort of went, yeah, why is it that it feels that way? And again, I guess it's sort of like the fact that UP just does UP things. I don't know. Anyway. Oh man, I want one with no sidewalks. I want 38 or 32 with no sidewalk. You know what? This might actually work. Oh no. I'll fix that later. Okay, so yeah, here I'm still working on this. We're at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. We'll cover that with something or whatever. Or we'll just use the other one that we had, even though it looks kind of weird. Nope. Damn it, I just want to find one with no thing. Mason, help! Mason! Why can't I do what I want? Alright, whatever. We'll work it out later. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I don't think I finished my points there, but I feel like I got enough of it across. I hope you get what I mean. And don't, I hope you don't take it as an affront either. I don't mean to say that, well, you're wrong. But it just, that feeling that it doesn't have a lot of history isn't true compared to the other railroads. They have a much longer history than all the other Class 1s, pretty much. They have a longer history than some other Class 1s put together. It's not as interesting because it's not, like, in the forefront. A lot of the CSX mergers, CSX and NS, they came out of the Conrail merger, which came out of the Penn Central merger, which is a huge, dramatic thing, especially in the history of Northeastern or Eastern railroading. It was a massive deal, and it changed the face of railroading in the U.S. forever. And so it's, I can understand why it's so easy to say, well, it doesn't feel like the UP does anything, because they weren't part of that. They were just proceeding on as their monolithic, what they were, absorbing the Rio Grande of all things, and the Southern Pacific too. These two other huge roads, they just gobbled them up. And it just sort of happened, almost quietly. It was a small merger. It didn't have a lot of fanfare. It didn't go crazy. There weren't huge crashes. So you just don't hear about it. And that's what I get, and I would, I would argue that, with people that say that it's amazing, or, that the Big Boy is the greatest engine ever, because it really was a jack of all trades, master of none. That's something I can get into another time if you want me to talk about it. Because I could go on a tangent about how the Big Boy is not the best engine ever. But that's just, I don't know. It's got its pros and cons. But I will stand by the idea that the Big Boy getting refurbished and running, in this short amount of time, and it being the Big Boy, which is a railroad icon for children and adults alike, there's a reason why there's all that hype. There is a reason. But, I get it. So, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I understand where you're coming from. And I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Trainman out.